Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to this meeting of the Warrant Committee. We have a number of things to go through. We have all been sworn in, so we are all official. So the first duty that I will ask someone to do is to move to accept the minutes of our June 3rd meeting.
So move.
We have a second. Any discussion? They were perfunctory. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Our second order of business is to elect officers for this year 2019 to 2020. We need to elect a chair and a secretary. I have been chair and Brian Beaupre is secretary at this point. So if there are any other nominations, or if there are any nominations, I should say, we will accept them from the floor and move on.
George, chair. Nomination.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? I would be very happy to serve as chair again. If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Secretary, do we have a nomination?
Secretary. Do you want me to ask you?
Brian, are you willing?
Yes.
I second it then. Okay. Do we have any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Done. We'll keep the same. We'll keep the same show on the road. Okay. So we have a number of things that are pending. As you all know, the special town meeting is taking place January 13th. You should have all received by now the list of articles that we will be reviewing. Actually concurrent, maybe a little bit in advance, but concurrent with the budget articles that we should start to be seeing in about a month and a half. We're waiting for the explicit language on all of them, but we do have some already from the zoning committee and a couple of the others, which I will ask you to review. And at our next meeting, I will ask Cheryl Tugias to come and talk to us about them, so we have a good understanding of exactly what they're looking for. Some of them are pretty perfunctory, but some of them, as you all know, those of you who've been here for a couple of years, the language is often in need of explanation. We have a couple of very competent attorneys who are very good at helping us wade through it, but for those of the uninitiated, it always helps to have the chair of the zoning board come and talk to us about this. At our last meeting, we did have a request for an explanation of how we're looking at this year's budget, and we're very happy to have our town administrator, Mike Dennehy, here. And I don't know if our select board chairman, Mike Zulis, is going to speak also, but you're welcome to come. We're very happy you're here, and thank you for coming tonight. So you're on. A couple of people asked specifically to see how the status of we went through a lot of work last spring with the budget, and you and the group did really kind of heroic work making the numbers work. Give us a sense, please, of how that is working out, what the progress is, and how things are looking for this year.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Those of you that are new here, I appreciate your service. Those of you that have been doing this for a while, thank you again for signing up. This is one of the most important committees in town government, and I've said on several occasions that without the volunteerism in this town, Milton would not be what it is. This committee did a lot of unbelievable work late last spring to get the town meeting warrant articles ready. Just before I update it, I'd like to thank my select board chair, Mike Zulis, who's been completely supportive of all our initiatives in town, both on a weekly basis, bi-weekly basis with our meetings and setting policies, but also in the day-to-day operations and allowing us to do some stuff that we haven't done in the past. So
now that you've said that,
yeah.
I can leave.
Yeah. So it's a bit of Groundhog Day, if you will. We met in March and tried to come up with some viable solutions. It was a coordinated effort with the school finance subcommittee and the finance committee for my board. That's made up of Member Conlon and Vice Chair Collins. It was very successful, and these folks at this table made it happen that Saturday in March over at the Council on Aging. Subsequent to annual town meeting, our solid waste and recycling collection contract came out, and it was $675,000 more than we anticipated. So we learned two things. When Sunrise Scavenger came to this town in 2014, and moved the town from a 5-day collection week to a 2-day collection week, the town really got a bargain. Really got a bargain. The other thing we realized is it was time to pay the piper, right? Sunrise Scavenger actually came in almost $1 million less than the second bidder. As many of you know, as residents, we went back to the 5-day collection. It was a bit cheaper. We only had one bidder at the 2-day collection. I know the community had appreciated it. It's nice when the holidays don't take effect. We've already had a holiday take effect. We're going to have a holiday a week from Monday on the 14th, so everyone's trash is going to get delayed. So it's a little bit inconvenient, but it's also a lot more costly to get rid of stuff nowadays, both from a collection perspective and more so a disposal perspective. So that deal that the town reaped the benefits of from 2014 to 2019 cost us approximately $675,000 more. That was after town meeting authorization. So what we did is we banded back together again with the school finance subcommittee. We've been working through meetings. We actually have a very important meeting this coming Friday. We've been working through minimizing that $675. There will be at least 2 town meeting articles that need to be readjusted. The Public Works budget, which is almost entirely made up of that solid waste addition. And then, as many of you know, Stormwater Enterprise Fund picks up a portion of the yard waste as a part of its term. So those 2 articles will certainly have to be rewritten for the special town meeting in January, and we're working with the school committee and their finance subcommittee to come up with solutions around how we mitigate that $675. We have identified approximately $260,000 of that at this time. Some of it's coming from some robust and unanticipated sales of the trash stickers. So as we reported some time ago, maybe not to this committee, to my board, 20% of the town actually opted out of the barrel, which is...
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
That's a very surprising number.
It is, because other communities where they've rolled out something like this, Braintree, Dedham, other communities, it's 5 or 10%.
Yeah, wow.
So confidently, we estimated a similar algorithm of percentages, if you would, that we would reduce sticker sales by 80%. We haven't seen that through the first 3 months.
So it's a little windfall?
It is a little windfall. We had budgeted for $1 million in the solid waste budget. We're looking at close to $1.2 million now. So we can take that additional $200,000, put it against the $675. That gets us to $475. So we're still working on that stuff.
How's the differential going to be, or am I preempting you?
So
475 is still a big number.
It's still a big number. We've obviously, when you have smaller departments, so for those of you that don't know it, the building commissioner upstairs here and the council on aging last year, they were less than level funded in FY20 from FY19. So when you ask them to give more, they simply can't. So it's your big 4 departments. It's your schools, police, fire, DPW, and we've had those preliminary conversations with them. We're revisiting revenue numbers, our new growth number and our overlay number with the appraiser upstairs. We're looking at our investment interest income with the treasurer, and we've found some conservative numbers that we feel we can add another $60,000 to $70,000. So roughly we're at about $350,000 shortfall that hopefully Friday the rubber meets the road and we can sit down and iron out that number for the FY20 shortfall.
Jonathan, do you have a question? Oh, sorry. I thought I saw you. Go ahead.
So it was somewhat long-winded, but the 675, we're working our way back towards that number. I talked through email with former town administrator John Cronin. Years ago, they did what's called a clawback article, where you just take one budget article and bring everything down. So we're not sure if we're going to do that or go to the specific articles in the 2019 annual town warrant and just reduce accordingly.
Would a clawback be something that we vote on January, at the January town meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's some work left to be done, but know that there's been probably 8 or 10 meetings so far. with respect to the shortfall and coming up with that shortfall. And again, the reason my board pushed it off till January is we'll get a better definition of those numbers. I just got September sticker numbers. If that comes in even better for October, then, you know, maybe we can resolve it with less reductions from the articles.
Have the large departments given you any indication of where they might be taking the budget, taking down their budgets to contribute to this shortfall?
Sure. So from the town side, it's basically a level of service, or you know, not backfilling some type of overtime, not overtime where you need police officers patrolling, but overtime where a police officer may show up here tonight to testify at a meeting or go to a neighborhood meeting, and through collective bargaining agreements, they're on overtime or stuff like that. So Chief King and Chief Grant have identified some non-operational backfilling of wages. Public Works, they've got a small slush fund, if you will. Basically, they'll do small construction projects. The one that comes to mind is the top of Whittier. So the top of Whittier had a water problem for years, and it deteriorated that road just as you enter from Canton Ave. Mm-hmm. That small project is part of that contractual obligation that we do, and we kind of, you may have seen trucks around town recently with small patch cuts. That's the type of stuff that may get reduced from Public Works. And again, we're working with the school committee. We'll sit with them on Friday to try to iron this stuff out. The revenue, any increase in revenues doesn't have to come in front of town meeting. It's the reduction of the budget articles that would have to come to this board, to this committee, and then to town meeting.
One thing that we talked about in a discussion that we had was the concept of the payment in lieu of taxes arrears, where we have agreements in place for payment in lieu of taxes with our large not-for-profits in town, where we have over $400,000 that have been budgeted or at least earmarked, where we've only had $100,000 paid. Is there any discussion to basically move the deadbeats to pay up?
So,
for a better term.
We have gotten responses. Curry College again answered the bell. 2 years ago, their payment was $86,000. Yep. If you recall, last fiscal year they moved it to $100,000. Yep. They moved it to $110,000. So on January 3rd, first day of the fiscal year, we received a check for 10% more than we did the previous year.
We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it.
It's still, I think, something that we need to discuss as a town, and if there is an initiative to look at this and put something on the table that has teeth in it, to ask these not-for-profits who have been benefiting from the largesse of the taxpayers for many years to help the town out now, would be, I think that's something that really should be moved forward. I think so. I think we had a discussion and consensus at the meeting here that this is something that really should be emphasized.
On a positive note, all members of the pilot committee wanted to be reappointed, and that committee is meeting again next Wednesday. That agenda will be posted Friday, okay. And those discussions are continuing to take place.
So I can add a little color to this. I was hoping to be just window dressing here, but I can add a little bit of color to this.
This is the chair of the select board,
Oh, I'm sorry,
by
I'm
the
Mike
way.
Zulis. I'm the chair of the select board this year. So before I was on the select board, I was on the pilot committee, and this was going back 2.5 years ago. At the time, I thought it would be low-hanging fruit, right? We have a policy in place. We have entities that are benefiting, and we know that we know their financial situation because they all file with the Public Charities Division, and so we know all of their financial situation. So I thought it would be pretty easy to get reasonable deals. There are no deals. Curry College has a deal. It's not really an agreement, not really a contract. But they've been abiding by it and paying it to that degree. It doesn't comply with our policy, but they've been paying to that degree. That deal goes back to 2006. There are no other deals. And in terms of the amounts, over the last couple of years, we started in 2017 laying out what the amounts under our policy we would request, and the town has requested those amounts. There's no legal mandate
obligation, right,
or obligation for them to pay it. But our argument was, similar to what this committee has said, there is a benefit, and there is, at least based on the financial statements, there's ability to pay, and it is not atypical for hospitals, educational institutions to have pilot agreements, which would be predictable and consistent for both parties, and that's why, I thought it would be a reasonable thing to get done. So we haven't been able to get agreements with them. Right now, I think Curry's payment of the percentage of what we would ask for if we had an agreement is about 25%. About 25%. Same with Milton Academy, about 25%. The hospital, zero. Frankly, and so, and I was a little surprised by that. I thought we could get an agreement, and hopefully we will. Now, having said all that, that money would help. That money would make things easier. That money would preclude us having to shift things in January.
Mid-year, right?
Right, but it's not a panacea. It's not going to solve all our problems. It's not going to make your jobs easy. Right? It's going to improve things a little bit, but it's not going to make your jobs easier. There's a lot of other things that we're going to need to do in order to address, our budget situation. I'm going on too long, but let me just leave you with this. Big picture, I look at it in terms of three buckets. You've got services, you've got taxes, and you've got development, right? And I think it would help our community if this group leads a conversation about what we want to do with those three buckets, right? I think in terms of service, I think people are generally happy with the level of services they get. I think in terms of taxes, nobody wants to pay taxes, but I think people generally understand that you need to pay in order to get services, and costs go up, and so taxes are going to go up, but they want to make sure you're watching every dime. The wild card that could mitigate those two other buckets is development, if we have more development. And I think there is a real question in this community if we want to have more development. A lot of people want to live here because of its suburban, rural character. Mm-hmm. And so if you have more development, that cuts into that. At the same time, we pay for that. It costs us more money to live here because we don't have that kind of development. So that's kind of the big picture, the way I look at it. It may be, I'm sure there's other ways to look at it, but if this group led that kind of conversation, I know that would, I think that might be helpful. So.
I don't think you find people on this committee reticent about the issue. I think we have a number of very strong opinions. One of the things we actually discussed was the idea of having a non-resident fee for temporary residents, if you will, whether they're hospital patients, residents of dormitories at Curry or Milton Academy, which would effectively be pass-throughs to the students, so that if they're living in the residence hall or they're a patient in the hospital and they're non-residents of the town of Milton, they would have to pay something for the privilege of using our water, electricity, and crossing the threshold to our town, et cetera, which would offset some of the costs of maintaining the access, et cetera. It would be something along the lines of what Airbnb customers are obligated to pay, certainly in the city of Boston, and I know we're talking about that as well. Is that something that we can use as a source of revenue? Because I think one of the things that we came up with in our last meeting was that we really have a revenue problem. I mean, who doesn't have a revenue problem, right? You never make enough money. The guy that's rich is the guy that's making twice as much as you are. But the reality is we do have a revenue problem because we maintain the services, but the cost of the services is going up faster than the revenues are going up. And I think addressing the revenue issue and being relatively creative about it and looking at these as sources of revenue is something that's in order. It may be a little bit against the grain. It may rub some people the wrong way. Well, they don't live here. Who cares? So, this is our town and we have to support it, et cetera. So if this is something that we can talk about and something that can be put forward to the town meeting, that might obviate the need for, going after a pilot with teeth.
But you said, going to readdress the pilot with the hospital?
With all three. I mean,
Yeah.
the pilot committee continues to work,
Okay.
and I think there is support on the select, the last time we voted on this issue, and let me just preface, I should have prefaced anything I say by saying, I'm not speaking for the board, I only speak for the board when there are votes.
Yes.
Right, so this is, everything I said was personal,
Yes, no,
not the
we
board.
understand, yeah.
But having said that, the last vote that we had, I think, was in January or so,
Correct.
when there was support for sending out these request letters for these amounts. So I think there is support on the board based on that vote for it, and the pilot committee continues to, 2.5 years later, the pilot committee continues to work hard and try to engage on this and try to see if we can get agreements. I think that continues.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the taxes, yeah, no one likes to pay taxes. We
Right.
know the necessity of the needs for it, but the older people that were like the backbone of Milton having to be taxed out and leaving
Yeah.
because the taxes have gone up so high because we don't have any development is what we mean, or what a lot of the residents mean when they talk about taxes. So,
Right.
we have to pay them, but you just don't want them to have to leave.
Which then exacerbates the problem of the school capacity
Absolutely,
issues, right?
absolutely.
It's-
Because you have families moving in.
Families going to move out
Right.
more often than not. So-
Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions for our town administrator and the chair of the select board beyond what we've already done?
Are you leaving?
No, I'm here. I wore my dark suit because I'm the Grim Reaper. We met in this room on Monday with my department heads, and we delivered the news for the '21 budget. As you know, we used some free cash for operations last year. We have to make up that money.
Yes.
We have the useful life, Mass General Law situation last year. That impact is about $200,000 for next year and the following fiscal year. So those we have to identify. We're probably $2 million in the hole, starting out of the gate for FY21. So what we did is we presented, it was presented to my board through the Finance Committee last Wednesday night, that we're gonna ask the department heads for 2 budgets this year. The first budget is going to be their FY20 money, dollar amount. You're gonna add in your collective bargaining and contractual obligations, and you're gonna submit it to us.
Can you tell us about anything about the discussions with the school department and or with any of the departments and the health insurance premiums and the discussions that have been going on with those groups to limit the rather surprising increase that we saw last year? 16% last year, 12% the year before. What's happening
We
with that?
met in this room several times. The
Yeah.
gentleman to my left was the stalwart. We don't have an agreement yet. We have a tentative agreement. The MOU is being drawn up. The key word is stabilization,
Yes.
right? My board adopted and invoked Section 21 and 22, which gives them the ability to redesign the plan.
And 23.
Yeah, and 23.
Yep.
We didn't choose to do that. We had voluntary discussions, agreement discussions in this room, probably 8 times, Chair.
Yeah, June through September.
Yeah.
What is the estimated completion? I mean, we for the budget, certainly that has to be decided relatively quickly, I would think.
So maybe I'll take this.
Yeah, if you don't-
So I think it's fair to say at this point, it was a very positive discussion, and I think it's a very positive tentative agreement, tentative situation. I don't think we're at the point where we can say
Yep.
this is the deal, but I would expect, where are we, October 1st? I would hope we'd have something a little more definitive by mid-month. Because now that, when we need to get everything ticked and tied and drawn up, and
Oh,
so,
yeah. Yeah.
so, but it was a very, positive discussions, voluntary discussions, and the unions are great, I have to say. They were great, great partners in discussing this, and recognizing the issue, and I think we're on the road to possibly getting to a good place. Is that obscure enough?
We'll know a lot more in 2 weeks, but a very thorough process, very back and forth across the table, a lot of caucusing, a lot of coming back, a lot of concessions from both sides. I think the major theme is stabilization.
Yeah.
Stabilization.
Yeah, I mean, having an increase like that, again, an increase of that magnitude in that particular line item would be really difficult to find offsets.
Yeah.
I think everybody realizes that, too.
I can certainly appear before this committee in 2 weeks' time and
That would
fill
be
you in
helpful.
on the details.
I think that'd be nice. Yeah,
If
that'd
the
be
Ts
good.
are crossed and the Is are dotted.
Yes, that'd be good.
But no, it's very relevant. Those of you that don't know, it's a 16% increase. And the town, quite honestly, can't afford a 16% increase, so.
The other thing.
But that's something that we work through, and hopefully everything's signed, and I'll come in here and reveal the details that I can, and we'll move forward.
Right. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
Please, Doug.
Are we
Kathleen.
allowed to go to consider the GIC this year? Last year, we weren't considering it?
So the board,
Just for the readership
Yeah.
out there, talk about what the GIC is.
yeah, the Group Insurance Commission is the health plan that the state provides. And we, by invoking Chapter 32B, Sections 21 to 23, it allows you, it gives the town broad, authority's the wrong word, but broad opportunity to compel employees to go into GIC.
Okay.
We invoked that. The unions, I think it's fair to say, would not be happy with that. And we kept negotiating for a voluntary agreement at the same time. And I think I'm hopeful that we're going to get to a place where we don't have to go down that road. Because, there's a great benefit in this community to have labor peace and to have our great employees who will continue to be inspired and to continue to want to work here. You want to attract and retain great employees, and part of that is the health insurance. And so I think that's something that's very important to us. If you look at other communities like Dedham and I think Newton, and you have employees who are marching.
Yeah.
If that happens, it happens. But to the extent that we can work together, and we worked really hard, and we work together, and to the extent that we can prevent that and join together cooperatively, I think that's a great benefit to us. So hopefully that'll be the result.
Well, good luck with the negotiation. I mean, we have enormous respect for the teachers and for the municipal employees and the firefighters and the policemen and public works and other employees of town. And we certainly want to make sure that they have coverage that is comprehensive. But we also have to be careful that it isn't to the point where we can't afford it anymore, because we I think are at that point, and I think they understand that, and we've done everything we can to make sure that they get that coverage.
I think, let me just say, I can, not to go on and on, but I can tell you the level of respect that you have for the employees would only increase immeasurably if you sat through these negotiations over the last 3 or 4 months. They deserve a lot of credit.
Well, that's encouraging to hear.
Deserve a lot of credit.
That's great.
Can I ask, this is more of a school department question, but just as we're discussing next year's budgets, do you know, is the school committee contemplating what's going on up in the State House about the redistribution of, the potential addition of billions of dollars into the budgets, which may in different ways filter through to the town? Particularly, I know we had a lot of discussion here last year about the special education cost, transportation. I know they're trying to address that specifically. Obviously, the timing is, takes forever for things to get done, but I keep hearing they're going to have a decision up there on that in a month. Is the school committee, everybody's doing 2 budgets, is the school committee doing a sort of a side budget, thinking about what might happen? Because I feel like that would make a big difference if that saw an influx of cash, and it sounds like it might be possible in the next fiscal year. Is that?
No specific dialogue about that, but I know Dr. Pavlicek is closely watching it.
I'm sure.
He's a subject matter expert in that field. He sits in on the joint meeting with the finance subcommittees that we host on the Fridays. And the subject came up from 30,000 feet, and he's watching the
Okay.
situation, but I don't know how it develops, so.
We all just have to wait and hope the timing works out.
Really. Doug, you had a question.
Yeah, probably just a couple softball questions, but first, thanks that you're going to be, for being here and doing all that you do, but also that you're gonna be doing, I guess, a maintenance budget as well, that'll be good for comparison. The primary driver of this current budget year's deficit is the waste disposal. Are there other areas?
No, the
Causing
FY '20
problems?
shortfall is
Okay,
simply
simply the
the
waste extraction.
bids came in after annual town meeting.
And also, I know in, I guess, prior years, we've had some cost-saving initiatives started. The one that comes to mind is the chief procurement officer. Are those starting to reap cost benefits for us now?
Yeah, certainly. Probably can't quantify them, but can qualify them on a daily basis. Our parking enforcement officer hit the streets yesterday.
Okay.
It was a 2-week training period for him. So if you see that yellow ticket on the windshield,
Pay it.
be careful what you wish for.
Watch
right?
out.
But so those type of things, we're trying to come up with initiatives. And again, it's not, the chief will tell you, it's not punishment, it's compliance, right? Those parking signs read the way they read. I just came from the Traffic Commission. The Chamber of Commerce presented their proposal for what parking should do to these business districts. And you feel for the business districts if people overstay their welcome. So parking enforcement officer has hit the ground running. My chair mentioned it. Development in this town is just, it's almost a non-starter for some people. I sat in front of this board last year and tasked myself with trying to help with the development process and try to proactively work our way through. I'm back here again with my arms kind of up in the air. It's just, it's something that will help mitigate, I keep going back to Secretary Beaupre's words from 3 years ago that we have a top-down problem. This would help that revenue number and bring, we do have some projects coming online, which should help. The 131 Elliott Street, they just started construction on that. They're hoping to pour a foundation this week and maybe get that out by springtime. The Pulte development, so there's the Carberry project up at the far end of Canton Ave. So there is stuff in the pipeline, but I
Down the road a ways, as they say.
yeah, it's development.
One question that we also talked about was the CFO, what is happening with that since we had a non-event, if you will, last spring.
So, many of you probably don't know this, but we had Rick Neely in from the Town Government Study Committee, and we asked him that question. Is this something that you could take a look at? Right, we have a vacant $85,000 position that was gonna be used to pay for some of that CFO position.
Right.
Should the referendum had passed. We're thinking of bringing in someone on a
Consulting?
yeah, on a specific type thing. I'm very reluctant to spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 for someone come back to us and say, you're 96% residential tax base, you need development, and your schools are out, Don't tell us what we already know.
We need a
right?
solution, not the
Yeah.
analysis. The analysis we've got.
Maybe project-oriented,
Right.
and we're still working through that with the Town Government Study Committee, so.
Christine?
In that vein, would that person, or does anybody have a projected need revenue-wise against what has to happen with fire stations, the school, the increased cost of services? Like, do we know what the
So
delta is?
yeah, so ClearGov, which is the computer software system that we were grant funded through the Community Compact at the state, is almost live. It's an N+2. So in order to tell what your financial plans look like for 5 years, you need to put 7 years of data into that.
I see.
We're close to doing 3 years right now. That's how we're confident with the $2 million shortfall for '21. Obviously, I mentioned the $200,000 for the useful life situation. That will fall off the books 2 years from now. But the town accountant is confident that '22 doesn't look as good as '21 looks, and '21 doesn't look good. So there are things we can plug into that ClearGov, and we're ready to go live with basically FY19 and '20 stuff, just so people can see how the tax dollars came in and what they were spent on. And but in order to do that rolling 5-year plan, we need a couple more years of information inputted or uploaded into that software system.
I just feel like there's a narrative around spending, right? And there's no narrative in the general population around, you know, revenue needs. And I think everybody who owns property here does not want to see the schools fall off, right? But it's, you know, like a game I play with my kids, would you rather? Would you rather pay higher taxes or have a hotel on the outskirts of town, you know? And I don't know how we start to tell that story.
You know, I think it's a conversation, right? And you know, I think we need to have that in the select board, and I think you need to have, I think if you have it here, I think it'd be helpful, and if you have it in those venues, it's gonna filter up, it's gonna end up, you're gonna end up having that discussion at town meeting. And hopefully beyond that, right? If there are discussions about this in these venues and it's reported on, you know, in the media about that, and then people start to think about it and they start to see and hopefully they see the reality of it. But I think it's important to have the conversation, and I think it starts in places like this.
We can certainly talk about it. I think we have one issue, though. If we can talk about it, but in terms of originating, if we're recommending this to town meeting, I mean, we have a, you know, smack conflict of interest if we originate it and then have to approve it ourselves.
Yeah, no, that's right.
So I think that there is an issue where we have to be sensitive to the generation of the idea and how it is actually packaged and who proposes it. I think we're sensitive to that, but this group absolutely is interested in looking at revenues and what we need to do to stimulate them and to sustain them going forward, because, you know, 1 or 2 years is great, but the town's been here for 360 years or thereabouts, and it's going to be here a lot longer than most of us will be around, so we have to think long term.
It's a very good question. The would you rather we do on a daily basis from the expenditure side.
Yeah.
You know, we don't or can't right now do it with the revenue side because it's so restricted.
Yeah, right.
And that,
exactly.
you know, I think that was the consensus with the CFO thing, that was you'd be able to identify where the deficiency is with that infrastructure. But it's a work in progress, and we're looking to do probably project-specific type stuff.
Does anybody have any other questions? Because one thing that we do... go ahead, Clint, please.
One quick, but not so quick question. So I went to Tucker School. Anybody didn't know that? Middle school, Pierce, high school, 99, graduate. And I've seen a lot of colleagues or classmates, friends die or been strung out on these opioids. And I see that there's a, they're suing, there's towns that are suing these opioid
The class
companies.
action lawsuits?
Town is parties to that?
And the ones that are surrounding us, and you know, we're talking about revenues here. I mean, this is a little off topic, but why aren't we in that?
So we talked about it. A law firm approached the town 2 years ago with one of those class action lawsuits.
Yeah.
It wasn't all it was, we sent it to town council, it wasn't all it was chalked up to be.
Oh, really?
His opinion was it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. And we didn't participate. I know we're all talking about, you know, the Ohio lawsuit and the class
Yes.
action. The only one that came across our desk did not pass the litmus test with town council.
So it has been considered, apparently.
Who was town council?
John Flynn at the
Flynn.
time. Yeah, Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, Lehane.
Okay. Would you rather consider looking at it again?
Yeah, if
I mean,
if
this is not
approached-
just, this
right.
is someone who's, you know,
Yeah.
people have come to me and asked me about it, and I had to do a little digging myself. And, you know, this town has been ravaged through with this stuff too.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
We're
and I
gonna talk
know the
about
Milton
revenue.
Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition
Right.
got a federal grant, which, you know, like, 2 communities a
Right.
year get it, and they're doing yeoman's work with that stuff, but, yeah, if you know, they came to us,
Right.
this law firm.
Right.
And again, it didn't pass the litmus test, but, yeah, should that opportunity, because I agree, it's, Milton's not immune to the problems.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
One thing I promised the town administrator is that I would ask for a volunteer for the Capital Improvement Planning Committee to take Tom Hurley, who was on that for a couple of years, of course, moved from the town and is no longer a member of the Warrant Committee. We have to send a representative, and I'm looking for a stalwart volunteer to do this it's actually very important work. And if anybody's interested, we'll take your volunteer activity very seriously and appoint you immediately.
If I might, Mr. Chair, it's mornings. It's 7 a.m. to 8 a.m.
7 a.m. to 8
Yeah.
a.m.
I think it's Wednesdays, every other maybe.
Every
I can
other
get the
Wednesday?
schedule to you, but
Okay.
it's probably one of the most productive committees in town.
It is very important.
Yeah.
So if anybody has a... Doug?
I can volunteer.
Ooh, thank you very much. Doug Sybeck is volunteering.
There you go,
we
Doug.
plan it. Thank you very much. And we don't even have to vote on
What
that.
you wish for, so.
No, it's a great committee, it's a great committee.
It's a very important committee, and
Very
thank you.
big
You
shoes
did
to
great, yeah,
fill. With
yeah.
Tom Hurley ran a spreadsheet,
Terrific,
presented the spreadsheet, and we're all familiar with the Hurley amendment that, will help fund the fire stations or DPW yard one day.
We are looking forward to having the school committee representative come to us at our next meeting. We will make sure we plan it properly to have them there. I have been in touch with Mary Gormley, the superintendent, who has offered the 24th and 25th of October as dates for a tour of the schools.
I'll be there.
I took this tour in June. It's absolutely worth your time. In fact, I may even go again because I want to see how they're doing when they're in full tilt, because when I was there, it was towards the end of the school year. So the 24th, 25th, any of you who are interested, please let Lynn know, or a show of hands even now if you're interested, and we'll pick the date. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wow, that's very good. Well, she's gonna be thrilled.
Hall of Fame, Clinton?
It's,
Hall of Fame?
I don't know if that was me. That was someone else.
stop.
It's not what I hear.
Yeah, they give those awards for water boys too,
So the October 24th, 25th, I'll communicate. Is any one of those days better than another?
24th is better.
24th is better for anybody else?
Sure.
25th we have?
She said it
All right,
first.
well, I'll tell her 24. I think it's good for me. I'll have to double check.
It's a
but I think it
Thursday.
is.
Thursdays, yeah.
That's a Thursday.
Yeah,
Yes,
and then what
that's right.
time? What
Yeah,
time
that's
was
right.
that? Anyway,
It'll
around.
probably be first thing. It'll probably be in the morning
Morning,
because it's
okay.
going to take a while to get around because all the schools, classrooms, just to see what the situation is.
We're gonna go on a school bus too.
I don't know. We did a caravan.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, really. You might.
Maybe some
I don't know.
liability
Listen,
issues involved.
we don't want to add to the expenses of the town school department any more than we have to. Okay.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you very much. We're grateful.
So
for
as
your-
these articles come live and they're
Yeah.
presented,
The warrant closes the 15th of October.
yeah, so we were thinking about extending it to the 23rd. My board meets next Tuesday, the 8th.
Yeah.
As Yom Kippur is on the 9th.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And then the 23rd, rather than close it on the 8th and have to reopen it and all that stuff, we were thinking of potentially having the 23rd as the closing.
Well, we have the heads up on what's going to be discussed. What we will need absolutely on that day
The
is the actual language, so we can discuss it, have people come in and vote on it, because we're going to have to start drafting very quickly in order to get it out to the printer and in people's homes in time, while we're also inviting in the departments for the budgets as well. So there'll be a little bit of a crunch in early November, but I think we'll be able to get it done.
One of those articles, which I believe I forwarded to you, talks about changing the warrant delivery.
Right, so it's
A lot of
electronic.
communities that are trying to,
Nice.
we spend $23,000 a year printing and mailing them out.
Yeah.
And then I lug the USPS box in on Monday night, and then I lug another one in on Tuesday, and everyone keeps picking them up.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
So you have to wonder if
If it's worth it.
mailing them is
yeah.
worth it.
Well, this is one thing that we have to look at. I mean, you all have the language in here, and there's data backing it up. For those of you who didn't look at the distribution that you got, please take a look at it. It's really very enlightening to see who is moving electronically, and then you print it out if you want to. Otherwise, you bring it on your phone or on your iPad or whatever to the meeting, and then we can move from there. I don't think that's a
look at that
bad
warrant
thing.
on their phone though.
You'd be
People are not,
surprised.
a lot of older people are not going to look at
No,
that.
no, they won't. But
I don't even
have
like
a
to look on the
debate about
phone.
that when it
Yeah.
well, it's going to be interesting when we finally do have that, the language of that article. It'll be very interesting to see, because I'm sure we'll get some feedback from it, from our, people out there in TV land. So it'll be interesting for us to have that all in hand. But we'll look forward to getting it. Thank you.
Thank
Mike,
you all.
thank you for coming. Mike, thank you for
I would be
coming.
remiss if I didn't thank Lynn for all her help.
Oh, she's
That's
terrific.
what
Isn't
else.
she? We couldn't do it without her. Lynn, you're terrific. Thank you. Gerard.
All right.
Thank you very much. Okay. So we satisfied the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. We have our articles on the way. We have had our elections. Our next meeting date, if we can indulge, I should ask, is there any new business that we have to talk about at this point? I think not. I think we're in pretty good shape. But let's look at calendars just to see. We have this room on the Monday and Wednesday through the end of the year, right? Okay, that's great. So the school committee is meeting on the 16th, and Columbus Day is on the 14th. The articles are going to be moved until the 23rd of October. It strikes me that it would be wise to wait until we have that language and not have a meeting until the 28th of October.
If we can get them by the 28th.
We have to have them by the 28th. We have to have the language.
We should let the select board know.
Well,
They're gonna vote on
absolutely.
them the 23rd.
Yeah, they're voting the
We should be able to get
23rd.
them
We
the
should
28th.
have them by, they should send them out the next day to us.
Yeah.
So on the 28th of October, I think that's the next logical. It doesn't make any sense for us to have a meeting before then, because there won't be much to do, and we're going to have plenty to do in November. So if everybody's agreeable, we can call our next meeting, October 28th. I will invite the superintendent of schools to come and give us an update of what's happening, and by then, we will have also had the tour of the schools on the 24th of October, for those of you who are interested. Doug, do you have a question?
I just didn't know if you wanted to make a public notice for people watching that we have Town of Milton email addresses that we should be using for our work committee.
Well, we do have
And
Town
that
of
they
Milton.
can, you know.
Yes, anybody who has any interest in communicating with us can use the town email for
Actually, to
that.
Doug's point, if you go onto the town website
Yes.
and you go to the warrant committee and you click on that warrant committee member's name, it will create.
An email.
Some people have done it in the past, before the last town meeting, we got a few emails that worked
We
for all of us.
did. We did
Yeah.
get some, yes, exactly right. So I think people are beginning to use it, and that's a very good thing.
My email is cgraham@townofmilton.org. If you have any questions. All right, thank you.
Thank you
Fan
for the-
mail, any,
for the infomercial. If there is no other new business, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We don't need any discussion. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all very much. Enjoy. Happy Columbus Day. Happy Yom Kippur. I guess we don't say happy